Why do we get angry? Anger. We've all felt it. The tightening of the jaw, the rise in heartbeat, the spark of heat behind our eyes. Sometimes it comes as a quick flash. Other times it builds slowly, like a storm waiting to break. But have you ever stopped to ask, why? Why do we get angry at all? What purpose does this intense emotion serve? And why does it control us so easily? Today, we're going to explore anger, not just as a feeling, but as a biological, psychological, and social phenomenon. This is the story of how anger evolved, why it erupts, and how understanding it can change the way we respond to the world around us. Part 1. The Biology of Anger. To understand why we get angry, we start with the body, the ancient machinery that produces emotion. The moment we sense a threat, whether physical, emotional, or even imagined, a small almond-shaped part of the brain called the amygdala springs into action. This structure is part of our survival system. When it detects danger, it triggers what we know as the fight or flight response. One of the first things to happen is the release of adrenaline. This hormone increases heart rate, sharpens attention, and prepares the muscles for action. Soon after, cortisol, the stress hormone, enters the bloodstream. These chemicals work together to create a surge of energy, the feeling we often interpret as anger. Why does the body do this? Because, from an evolutionary standpoint, anger was a tool for survival. It made our ancestors bold enough to defend themselves, protect their families, and fight for resources. Anger increases strength, focus, and determination. It is nature's way of preparing us for conflict. Inside the brain, the hypothalamus sends signals throughout the body, telling it to get ready. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, the rational part of the brain, tries to assess the situation. Is this threat real? Is it manageable? But sometimes the emotional brain reacts faster than the rational brain. That's why we often say or do things in anger that we later regret. The biological system was built for speed, not reflection. Part 2. The Psychology of Anger. While biology starts the engine, psychology controls the steering wheel. Anger is not just a reaction to danger, it is also a reaction to pain, frustration, and perceived injustice. Psychologists describe anger as a secondary emotion. This means it usually follows another emotion underneath. We feel hurt but express anger. We feel fear but express anger. We feel embarrassment but express anger. We feel powerless but express anger. Anger often disguises vulnerability. Another key factor is expectation. When life does not match what we believe should happen, frustration arises. If someone cuts you in line, your mind says, "This is unfair." If a loved one ignores your feelings, you think, "This is wrong." Anger grows when our inner picture of how things should be collides with reality. Psychologists also identify triggers, which vary from person to person. Feeling disrespected. Feeling ignored. Feeling threatened. Feeling trapped. Feeling helpless. Feeling misunderstood. Anger can also be learned. If you grew up in an environment where shouting, aggression, or emotional explosions were normal, your brain may interpret anger as the natural response to stress. But there's another layer: our personal boundaries. When someone invades our space, breaks a promise, or crosses a line, anger acts as a warning signal telling us, "Pay attention. Something important is happening." Part 3. Types of Anger. Not all anger is the same. Experts categorize anger into different forms. 1. Passive anger. This is quiet, suppressed anger. Instead of expressing fury, a person withdraws, becomes sarcastic, or avoids communication. It's anger turned inward. 2. Aggressive anger. This is explosive, outward anger, yelling, hitting, threatening, or intimidating. It's anger looking for an outlet. 3. Assertive anger. This is the healthiest form of anger. It communicates boundaries clearly and respectfully. Assertive anger says, "This is not acceptable," without harming others. 4. Chronic anger. Some people carry anger for years. It becomes a lens through which they see the world. Chronic anger drains energy and harms relationships. 5. self-directed anger. Sometimes the anger is turned against ourselves, through guilt, self-criticism, or shame. Each type of anger tells a different story, but all share the same purpose, signaling that something inside us needs attention. Part 4. The social roots of anger. Anger is not just personal, it is also social. Human beings are deeply shaped by the environment in which they grow. Society influences what we consider rude, unfair, or offensive. Social norms define which behavior is acceptable and which is not. When people feel unheard, unvalued, marginalized, discriminated against, or powerless, anger becomes a collective response. History is filled with examples: protests, revolutions, uprisings, all fueled by anger at injustice. Anger can unite people. It can also divide them. It can ignite progress, or destroy peace. Whether anger becomes productive or destructive depends on how it is handled. Even in everyday life, social environments shape our anger. For example, work pressure can make small problems feel huge. Family dynamics can trigger old childhood wounds. Social media can amplify envy, resentment, or outrage. We don't feel anger in isolation, we feel it in context. Part 5. The neuroscience of anger. Let's return to the brain, the laboratory of emotion. When we get angry, certain neural networks activate. The amygdala, the emotional alarm system. It reacts within milliseconds. The prefrontal cortex, the logic center. It evaluates consequences and makes decisions. The anterior cingulate cortex. It helps regulate emotional responses and impulse control. The insula. It interprets pain and bodily sensations, including the discomfort of anger. During intense anger, the amygdala overrides the prefrontal cortex. This is why anger makes rational thinking difficult. The emotional brain shouts louder than the logical brain. Neuroscientists call this an amygdala hijack, when emotion temporarily takes control. But the brain is adaptable. With practice, we can train the prefrontal cortex to regain control faster. This is why mindfulness, deep breathing, and emotional regulation techniques work. They strengthen the brain's ability to calm itself. Part 6. The purpose of anger. Despite its negative reputation, anger is not inherently bad. It serves several important functions. 1. Protection. Anger prepares the body to defend itself. 2. Boundary setting. Anger signals that someone has crossed a line. 3. Motivation. Anger can drive us to fix problems or stand up for ourselves. 4. Social justice. Anger toward unfair systems or behavior can inspire change. 5. Emotional communication. Anger expresses unmet needs, pain, or frustration. A world without anger would be passive and unresponsive. But a world uncontrolled by anger would be chaotic. The goal is not to eliminate anger, but to understand it. Part 7. When anger becomes harmful. While anger can be useful, it becomes dangerous when it turns into violence, damages relationships, causes chronic stress, affects health, hurts mental well-being. Chronic anger increases the risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, digestive issues, and weakened immunity. Emotionally, it leads to anxiety, burnout, and isolation. Unchecked anger also creates cycles. Once anger becomes a habit, the brain becomes better at producing it. Without intervention, some people remain locked in anger for years. Part 8. Healthy ways to manage anger. So how do we manage anger in a healthy way? 1. Pause before reacting. Even a 3-second pause interrupts the amygdala rush. 2. Identify the real emotion. Ask, am I hurt? Scared? Feeling disrespected? 3. Communicate assertively. Use calm, clear words instead of aggression or silence. 4. Change your environment. Sometimes the best response is stepping away. 5. Practice breathing or grounding techniques. These activate the parasympathetic nervous system, your body's natural calming system. 6. Reflect on patterns. Understanding triggers prevents repeated explosions. 7. Seek support. Therapy, counseling, or talking to trusted people can provide new tools. Managing anger is not about suppressing it, it is about channeling it. Part 9. Why we get angry, the deep answer. After exploring the biology, psychology, and social dynamics of anger, we arrive at the central truth. We get angry because we care. We get angry because something important to us feels threatened: our values, our boundaries, our identity, or our sense of fairness. Anger is a messenger. It tells us something needs attention. Something needs protection. Something needs change. When we listen to anger, instead of being controlled by it, we discover what truly matters to us. Closing. Anger is powerful, complicated, and deeply human. It can destroy relationships, or protect them. It can damage society, or transform it. It can hurt us, or guide us. Understanding anger is the first step toward mastering it. The next time you feel your heart pounding and your fists tightening, pause and listen. Ask yourself not only, "Why am I angry?" but also, "What is this anger trying to teach me?" Thank you for joining this exploration into one of the strongest emotions we possess. May this understanding help you navigate your emotions with clarity, compassion, and control.
Alrighty, my magical beans, it's time to go, but before I vanish in a sparkly poof, hit that like button like you're high-fiving the moon, subscribe so we dance again soon.